11. Sympathy for the Doctor. How may I live without my name? I have given you my soul. Leave me my name. The Crucible. Arthur Miller. Ace stared at the creature that stood exulting in the middle of the synaptic bridge. So this is all the Professor's mind? Indeed. 5 of his previous selves are here. When a Time Lord regenerates, a copy of the old personality is held in the memory space prior to transfer into the Gallifreyan Matrix databank. Most of his species hold their ghosts sleeping. The Doctor is, as always, individual and thus vulnerable. When he released the personality of the 3rd Doctor to aid him, I took advantage of his mental confusion and planted a tiny seed of myself in his memory space, a bolt hole in case the chase for me ever became too dangerous. I hid, as humans say, under his nose. 5? Was all Ace could say. The Timewyrm was too busy orating to pay attention. When the 2nd Doctor visited the Doctor in dreams, I was there, gaining ground. Now I am ready to take over the whole datascape and the body with it. When the Doctor's mind is dead, the Timewyrm shall be truly unfettered. The creature strode forward, its claws springing from their sheaths. Oh yeah? Ace was trying to be cool about this, but it really did look like this was the end. Once I had brought you into my kingdom here, I tricked you into interfacing with the Doctor and his TARDIS. You focused their psionic power on the church and brought it to the moon. Do you know why? No. To be honest, Ace didn't know what the hell the Timewyrm was on about, but if the beast was talking, it wasn't attacking the Doctor. Because the death of a Time Lord mind releases a vast amount of mental energy. Energy I shall use the being known as Saul to focus into a huge explosive pulse. The moon's orbit will be disturbed. It'll fall closer and closer to Earth. Before it destroys the planet, there will be one long night, one vast total eclipse in its final orbit. Billions of time streams will be altered or destroyed. Billions of choices of alternate possibilities will be wiped out in the face of that terrible certainty. The Timewyrm continued its slow pace forward, laughing at its words. Is my scheme not glorious? Is it not perfect? I gain a permanent physical form, the powers of a Time Lord and his craft, and a vast new feeding ground. My power will be infinite. Yeah? So what have you done to me? Ace remembered the brick, shadow against the sun, the crack of stone on bone. When I have the Doctor's form, I will alter your time stream. You will be killed by Chad Boyle in that playground incident. Chad has told me that he saw the Doctor outside the school gates, and he made no attempt to stop your death. That is me, girl, watching as you die. Why? Why do you want to do that? Because that is part of what undermines the Doctor's mind here. Your instability. I am the Timewyrm. I have no more malice than a volcano or a waterfall. Now, it stroked a claw on the opposing palm. Time to die. Ace stepped carefully back. There was no hope left now. Darkness surrounded them. The Doctor was on the verge of dying from his wounds anyway. What would he do, facing this creature with no reason left for hope at all? Yeah, he'd fight. She had some Nitro 9 left, but she couldn't use it on this thin bridge without collapsing it. Falling into the pit was, despite the Professor's plans, not something she wanted to do. Besides, the Timewyrm could fly. What other weapons did she have? Well, it was worth a try. Professor! Doctor! Can you hear me? She thought to herself. From the pit below there came a faint cry, the noise, she guessed, of the Professor's unconscious mind answering her. The Timewyrm was grinning deadly metal at her retreat. I need to fight it! I need to defend you! Ace concentrated. Give me a sword. She didn't expect it to happen so quickly. From the depths of the pit, a streak of brilliant light flashed upwards, illuminating the whole landscape for a split second. And in her hand there was a sword. Exactly the one she had visualised. Ace dived at the Timewyrm and slashed the weapon across the creature's abdomen. The beast screamed in rage and a sword flickered into its own gleaming fist. The beast hacked straight for Ace's head, the blade missing by an inch. Ace sidestepped and stabbed for the creature's legs, but it parried. Up, across, down, the combatants attacked and matched each other blow for blow. A knot of swords brought them face to face, the Timewyrm's strength gradually overcoming Ace's determination. "I'm not going to let you kill the doctor," Ace shouted into the Timewyrm's face. "I'll die first." "Where did you learn to fight like this, human?" spat the worm. "On the playing fields of Perivale, scumbag!" Ace saw the glint in the metallic nostrils and kicked the beast in the chest, swishing her sword aside. The jet of flame blasted over her head. The Timewyrm slashed forward, taking advantage of Ace's lack of balance, and pushed her backwards along the narrow bridge, the young woman desperately blocking the flurry of savage blows. "Your precious doctor will soon be mine," roared the Timewyrm, enjoying the combat. "You are just prolonging his agony. He's only an idea in his own head now." Ace found her sword knocked aside, onto the bridge just out of reach. The Timewyrm raised its sword for the killing stroke. "Like you, he is only a dream." "A dream to some," the voice growled from behind the Timewyrm. The doctor was standing there, his face in shadow, his eyes shining. "A nightmare to others." He grabbed the Timewyrm's small frame and with a cry of effort threw it over the side of the bridge. With a gout of flame and a horrible roar, the monster plunged into the abyss. "Saul!" the doctor shouted to the sky, blood running down his face in streams. "Now!" The chamber exploded with white light. Emily burst out of the time vortex above a fantastical landscape, a wheel of green fields, great libraries, fortresses, and shining towers. Perhaps it had been a dark moment before her entrance, but now the place was echoing green, illuminated by a glorious dawn. She was falling through clouds, through blue skies, and for a moment she thought she glimpsed the whole of this world, a whole person, with a tremendous burden and a great sadness. And then the clouds closed in again. When she emerged once more, she could only see the details of the ground coming up to meet her. A pit was opening up before her, and only a slender bridge lay across it. This wasn't right. She was going to die. How? The world changed, reached out, and helped her. Laughing with joy, Emily slid at tremendous speed down the banisters of a vast spiral staircase. The staircase was pure white, and the medallion gate shimmered at the top. The staircase was organic, made of gleaming bone, and down the steps beside her cascaded a stream of pure water. The end of the banister was approaching. Emily flew off it and found herself sitting in the doctor's arms. "Hello," he said. "Welcome to my brain. Sorry the place is such a mess. This is my friend Ace." He put her down gently, and Ace realised that he had been saving his strength for this last effort. Pale and shivering, he staggered forward and dropped to his knees in the water that cascaded down the steps, over the bridge and into the void below. He reached forward, took 2 handfuls of water and splashed his face with them. The claw wound vanished. "Saul's power," he muttered as Ace looked on amazed. He quickly took some more of the water to drink. "Mending my data structures. We haven't much time." "Isn't the Timewyrm dead?" Ace had been staring at Emily and had found her gaze met by something the woman from Perivale wasn't very comfortable with. A kind of maternal love. Both would have said something, but the doctor's expression was urgent. His wounds were sealing and vanishing as he stood up. "No, only distracted. We've got to get up that stairway to the time vortex. The Timewyrm will have realised that Saul's breached its security. They'll be coming." "Who?" asked Emily. She was looking around, amazed, full of questions. But she could see the answer for herself. Out of the material of the stormy plain, creatures were forming. Daleks and unit soldiers, Time Lords and the horrific dead companions that Ace had witnessed earlier. They started to shamble towards the edge of the pit, calling and crying for the Doctor to stay. Their expressions ranged from imploring to threatening. All my doubts and fears, the Doctor whispered grimly, and the occasional famished aspiration, they will not give me up easily. They ran up the stairs. It was hard going, Ace quickly realised, against a tide of water that was flooding down. She hauled herself along, step by step, but she still had questions. "Professor, who's she and what's she doing here?" "She's Emily Hutchings, an old friend." "But I don't know you," panted Emily. "That is to say, you feel like you've always known me. Yes, you will." The Doctor smiled a secret smile. "She and an intelligent church known as Saul have helped me to trick the Timewyrm. It was expecting me to go down the pit, not up out of it. It didn't know I had help. It thought I had brought the church to the moon for its own ends." "But I thought it knew all you did," Ace exclaimed. But that means—" A grin began to spread over her face. "My God, this is part of the game, isn't it? You're playing a game!" The Doctor stared at her for a moment as if surprised. An old smile spread over his features. "Yes, and I'm winning. As always." "You really are a bastard," Ace laughed. "I don't know," the Doctor muttered, reaching out to touch her hair. "Perhaps we'll find out." Ace grabbed the hand and clutched it, grinning. Then she grabbed Emily's. The three of them pushed upwards against the current, seeing the top of the stairway looming closer. The creatures had started swarming up the stairs after them. Emily glanced back over her shoulder as she ran. Lord, the creatures were faster than they were. They were catching up. If she didn't still feel the pull of Peter and Saul, the invitation home, and if she didn't have such a desire to help this pair of adventurers, this place would have driven her crazy. As it was, it felt like a dream, a glorious adventure, and she was treating it as such. She had a feeling that this was something the Doctor did, involve people whose lives were bleak, and show them how terrible an exciting life could be. How terrible and how wonderful. Good God. She looked at Ace beside her. The girl's cheeks were red with exertion, and her face was somehow full of joy, the kind of joy you get from facing your greatest fear and conquering it. "Oh, why aren't you my daughter?" She looked at the Doctor and was shocked. It was that same thought, about facing your fear. The Doctor hadn't, and so he was still terribly vulnerable. Emily had a bad feeling about this. They sprinted up the vast staircase, the shimmering form of the medallion gate getting ever closer. Behind them, the Doctor's demons were getting closer too, their steps polluting the gushing water, turning it a brackish brown. Their howls rang across the Time Lord's internal landscape. With the gate a bare 200 metres away, Ace felt herself falling behind. Her strength as she ran up the staircase was declining more than it should have. Of course, she was tired, but it was more than that. It was like... She tried to remember Iceworld, and couldn't. But that meant... No! That would mean that the Professor wasn't going to win, that she was still going to die in that playground. He seemed confident, but then he always did. The demons were close behind, led by the blazing boy Adric, little puffs of blue flame coming from his mouth as his insides boiled. A metal star on his breast was slowly melting across his form, contorting into a strange swirl of colour. Emily reached the gate and looked back. The Doctor was staggering up the last few steps, battered, bruised, but with a strange compulsion on his face. He turned back. "Come on then, Ace, the final—" But she wasn't able to come on. She had tripped on a lower step, and the demon horde was surging against the tide up towards her. The Doctor started to hop back down the steps after her, but Emily grabbed him by the collar. "No, you don't. I'm not going back without you. Let me." "No, that's not right. That's not the way it should work." The Doctor looked around desperately. Ace had stood up, elbowed the burning boy in the face, and was splashing her way fiercely up towards them. The Doctor reached out with his umbrella, and his companion grabbed the end, using it to haul herself up against the flow of the waterfall. Dark hands flailed and grabbed the air behind her. She was almost on the same step as the Doctor when one claw clasped and held. The gnarled hand of the ageing woman, Kingdom, bit through Ace's jacket and clasped her arm. Others followed it, despite the young woman's kicking and desperate shouting. The doctor hauled harder on his umbrella. Realising that they were about to be overrun, Emily made a decision. Clasping the doctor's hand firmly, she jumped into the vortex once more. "Come on, Doctor, we're going home." The tidal force of time wrenched her away into the void, whirling off along the corridor, held to the gate only by the doctor. He was hauled after her, pulled off his feet until the only thing keeping him back was the hold he kept on his umbrella. Ace hung onto the thin end grimly, more and more hands grasping her and pulling her back. The doctor felt his muscles tearing, caught as he was between the rush of the vortex and the strength of his inner demons. He roared in agony, his hand turning white with the effort of holding on. Ace looked at his face, contorted with pain. His eyes met hers, full of human failing, human courage and sadness. But there was something else there as well. Heroes have feet of clay, sure, but the doctor was more than a hero. He was a principle, something that applied universally, almost a definition in the face of meaningless horror. The good that triumphed over evil. Ace knew then that she hadn't a hope. There were just too many of the demons. If they kept on pulling, they'd get the doctor and this woman Emily as well. Ace felt the tears burning her cheeks, but managed a grim smile. God, she had done more, gone farther than she'd ever dreamed. She had danced the best dance in the whole damn universe, all because of him, all because he'd seen something in her that mirrored himself. The will to win against insurmountable odds, the courage to stand up and be different, the attitude needed to kick ass. Well, Doctor, she thought, see it now. Bye, Professor! Ace yelled against her tears. Remember me? And she let go of the umbrella. The doctor shot off down the butterfly tunnel of the time vortex. His voice echoed in a single shout, Ace! And the horror on his face was terrible to see.